Welcome back to our final presentation of day 5, dealing with chronic pain and holistic healing. Today's presentation is going to be by Becki Garza, who is the owner of La Herberia Botanicals. Becki has studied herbs for more than 30 years and has run her practice for the past 16 years. She has a background in biology and environmental science, and with her work, she bridges the science of plants with the wisdom of whole plant medicine. Her greatest passion is teaching people to make their own remedies so healing becomes something that they can hold in their own hands. I hope you enjoy this presentation.
I've been studying herbs for over 30 years, and I have had my practice, La Herberia Botanicals, for the past 16 years. I come from a very science background in terms of the mechanics of making the herbs, doing the extractions at the proper solvent ratios and all that. The herbs, we often call them the master chemists, which sounds like I'm going back to, I can't help it. I'm pretty much a science nerd. But as master chemists, they're able to construct these fabulous chemicals that we then borrow from them. They can't get up and run. So they make things to avoid predators, to avoid bacteria, fungus, virus. And then we can take those chemicals and make them into products that we use on ourselves. I have a big concern for making sure that the products aren't doing harm. And I think when you start adding preservatives and emulsifiers, and then we're starting to get into things that interact with our own endocrine systems and can be a problem. Somebody says that a plant is good for a particular symptom you're experiencing, and we need to know, are they using the root? Are they using the bark, the leaf? Is it the flower? Is it the leaf in spring? Is it in fall after the plant has had time to concentrate energy into different parts? That's a super important part, as well as, are you using the herb dry or fresh? Because there are some herbs where if you're using a dry herb, St. John's wort, for example, it doesn't have the same properties. It doesn't offer you the same assist that same herb would offer when fresh is used. There's different herbs at different stages, but then we're also looking at the plant in its natural form. So I go out and I harvest turmeric root, for example. The whole turmeric root offers you, the last time I looked, it was 246 different compounds were in that root. So now you go and look at the capsules that are on the shelves at the stores, and all of them are going to say that it's curcumin, which is just one compound of those 246. There's probably more identified now. But the thing is that when you separate a compound from the matrix that it was born into, it doesn't behave the same. And the best example we have, one of the best examples we have, is that of aspirin, of willow bark, which when it was discovered, it was taken as a tea of the bark of the willow tree. Okay, so then they isolated salicylic acid, or a form of salicylic acid. That's what aspirin is. And they start manufacturing it. We all know what the side effect of salicylic acid can be: a stomach bleed. It erodes the stomach lining if you use too much of it. And in fact, we rely on that. We're told to take, if you want to thin your blood, you take an aspirin, a low dose every day. So it's part of how it's used therapeutically. They count on it being irritating like that. When a person has an ulcer and they're looking for an herb to support their healing process, the specific is that same herb. I skipped a little step there. When they went to manufacturing, they ended up using meadowsweet, which is, it used to have the botanical term spirea, and that's where they get the name aspirin, is from spirea. But anyway, that's important because when you go to use the herb therapeutically for a stomach ulcer, the top herb for that is meadowsweet. So whole meadowsweet will heal your ulcer, assist you, and assist your body in healing the ulcer, whereas one compound removed from it will actually produce the problem. So taking that as my little flag, it's no, we should always use whole herbs, because separating them out of the matrix they come in, to me, is like a roulette. What's going to happen? We don't know. I do offer capsules that are whole turmeric, whole ginger, whole pepper, because also the pepper that everyone knows, it's almost a joke now. And you remember you have to take pepper with that turmeric or your body won't absorb it as well. That's also an extract. So pepper has over 1,000 compounds, and they're pulling out just piperine and they're putting that chemical into the capsules. So your capsules are curcumin and piperine as opposed to turmeric and pepper. So I just do it the old fashioned way. I just do turmeric and pepper. I add a little ginger too. Certain adaptogens they lean towards being used with, for example, the nervous system. You don't know exactly what's wrong, it's your nerves. And so there are adaptogens that lean towards that. I had already mentioned wild milky oats, which tends to nourish the nervous system. And that's one of the qualifications for being labeled an adaptogen, which it sounds funny. I want to say counterintuitive, but that's not exactly it, in that it has to have no overt effect. So like, for example, you take a decongestant herb, I don't know, Mormon tea, and your sinuses dry up. But you take an adaptogen and you're not going to feel an obvious effect because it works at a deeper level. It's looking for the root of the problem. Something like Ganoderma, which is reishi mushroom. It doesn't have, you don't take it and say, oh my goodness, I feel my blood pressure lowering, or I feel my brain fog going away. It's very subtle. It's working at a deeper level, and over time, and not that much time, you'll feel something within a week. You'll just feel a sense of well-being, a sense of, maybe I should try that new recipe. It just gives you a little, I don't know, just a little push towards wellness, and then it continues on in that vein. Ashwagandha is very popular right now. Ashwagandha is really something that adds resilience, stamina. It strengthens the body. See, and people are coming more in line with adaptogens lately, and I think they're a very powerful way to use herbs. I think part of the danger emerges with trying to use them in an allopathic way. And by allopathic, like more conventional medicine, like you're saying, oh, what do you have for a sore throat? You want to use it like an antibiotic, or you want to use it to lower blood pressure, or you're using it like a drug. And what we're doing is we're using it to treat a symptom. And herbalism that's not the approach that we take with herbalism. With herbalism, we're looking for the root of the problem, we're looking for the imbalance, and we're addressing that. For example, again, with the decongestant, to just dry up the secretions isn't really healing the problem. That's more an over-the-counter decongestant. Like, why do you have that? What's going on? And using an herb in that manner. But using an herb too much, it comes out of trying to keep hammering away at a particular symptom rather than pulling back and looking at the whole complex and seeing what it is that's missing. As far as contraindications with herbs, they have different therapeutic ranges. There's herbs that are basically food, and manzanilla, chamomile, falls into that one. And then there's herbs that get a little stronger, like passion flower, where you don't want to use that one week after week. And then they get to the herbs where this is a therapeutic herb. It's going to have a real effect. Someone should be helping you with that. You should be educating yourself before you use it. Sometimes herbs can be very drying, like turmeric, and there's the contraindication for people who tend towards like kidney stones, that you don't want to use it too much because it's drying. If you're pregnant, just leave the herbs alone. Red raspberry leaf, I shouldn't say just raspberry leaf. I mean, blackberry leaf is used similarly. These are herbs that are tonifying. Again, they're tonic herbs. their tonic to the uterus. And that is traditionally, that's used all throughout pregnancy. And there are galactagogues, that's the term for the herb that makes the mom produce more milk. And those should be used if needed during breastfeeding. And there's so much information out in the world now. That cup of chamomile tea, the manzanilla, and you can take that to start your nighttime routine to help you sleep. But after several weeks, you're still not sleeping. Well, then maybe you want a partner, somebody to help you troubleshoot. What am I doing wrong here? Why am I not sleeping? What other herbs are there? And sometimes it can be a combination of herbs. We often say that making a formula is like building a better plant. Like you take the quality of this flower and you pair it with this leaf, and now the two of them are working together, often synergistically. Often you get something completely different. For example, with arnica and comfrey together, they make a very powerful, just pain, swelling, bruising. Bruises disappear so quickly with the combination of those two herbs. One or the other, they're good, but golly, together they work really well. And then we can add an herb or we can take an herb out. There is herbs for detoxification, for letting go. And then follow that up with herbs that nourish the whole body, but also herbs that are particular to the nervous system and that help you focus and help you relax and also lift the spirits. There is a category of herbs that are uplifting to the spirit. And this is what I was referring to before, where it's that little nudge to get up off the couch and try the new recipe. Things like Melissa, which is also called lemon balm. And traditionally, way back with the eclectic physicians, that was used as part of a joy tonic. It actually just has this, it's very subtle, but it's an effective, very gentle herb. There was a very famous herbalist named Michael Moore, not the director of the documentaries. This is Michael Moore, the herbalist from New Mexico. And he used to say, sometimes people need green noise. They need green noise. And for that, something like nettle leaf, something very green, something very lemon balm, if it's for the nervous system, just to infuse a person's body with the green goodness of herbs is often that missing ingredient that all of us, but it's a good place to start. These are called tonic herbs and they're nourishing. They're something you can take every day. You can take them a couple of times a day. You can brew a big, or where's my other hand? You can brew a big quart jar and drink it all day. You can do a cold infusion, which is where you don't boil it at all. You just put the herbs into the water, leave it overnight. The next morning you strain off the herbs and that's what you drink. Put it in your water bottle and go with that. I do sell products. I sell tinctures and salves and teas and lotions. My greatest passion in herbs is to teach other people how to make their own products. How it's such a sense of empowerment to be able to make your own stuff, whether that's a tincture, a tea, or a massage salve.